Hi, my name is Ashley Whiting, and I've been wanting to do a gardening channel on YouTube for a long time. In fact, I was ready to go. I had a few videos made when I lived in Arizona when we realized we were moving to Texas. So just 1.5 zones cooler here in Texas for gardening, and it's a whole different ball game. So I gave myself a year to live here for 4 seasons at least, grow as much as I could. Everything was an experiment pretty much, and see what lived, see what died, see what I did well, see what I did not do well, and learn from it and hopefully be able to teach you. I have been gardening for over 20 years. It's my passion, it's my love, and I would love to share with you and teach you what I know and especially learn from you. So don't be afraid, don't feel like I'm gonna get my feelings hurt. I won't. I would love advice. Anything I'm doing wrong, feel free to tell me in the comments, any advice or suggestions about growing in Texas. I'm in Central Texas, a little north of Austin, called Cedar Park. So I thought I would share with you today some of the things that I'm doing in my vegetable garden. I have a kitchen garden on the side of my house. It's raised because here in Texas, at least where I am, really bad soil. So we're doing the best we can, but let me show you what I have going in my raised beds. Our soil is terrible. Our climate is awesome for growing, so I was so excited about that, but our soil is terrible. If you have caliche in your soil, really clay soil, easy. I've done that, easy. If you have sandy soil, easy. I have stone. I have solid limestone. Luckily, the guy that we bought our house from brought like a 6-inch layer of soil on top of his whole property. It's like 5 acres here, which was awesome. I can't imagine what that costs, which I'm super grateful for, so at least we have some grass, but I can't grow anything. I can't dig. So basically, I knew if I wanted to have a kitchen garden with raised beds, I was going to have to build something like this. It was more money than I wanted to spend, but I knew it would pay off in the end because I will use this forever. So this, I had to build a retaining wall right here. It goes all the way, I don't remember how long that is. I live on a slope. My property goes down, and so the soil is deeper over here and gets, you know, more shallow up towards the top over there. But what I did is we built this, we brought in soil, but then at least I have some soil in here and it's not stone, and I can amend that soil. And then we brought in some boxes and put some gardening soil in those boxes. Planted some trees along the front here. We're doing like an espalier, apple trees here. And let me show you what I have growing in my boxes. So here is in the middle of the wall, because this is coming from my house, we did put some stones, some steps in here so that you can get up into the garden. And here's my boxes. I have 10 of them. 4 on this side over here, and then I have 6 on this side over here. And these are a little more narrow. These are 4 feet wide, and just because of the spacing that I had, these ended up being almost 6 feet wide, which I don't love because it's hard to reach the middle, but it was the best way to get the most out of this space. So I put in the really big stuff here, like the tomatoes and things like that. The other thing we did is we added these cattle panels for arches between these 2 boxes right here. And these are the best thing. I wish I had them everywhere. Right now I have some squash growing up it, and flowers here, and some spinach, mylar spinach, and what else do we have over here? We have a lot of beans, more spinach. That's what we have growing right now. So let me take you around and I'll show you each box and show you what we have going on. So right here I have, this variety I can't really pronounce, Trianfovoil or something. It's a pole bean. And then we have Emperor, what's it called? Scarlet Emperor over here. The Scarlet Emperor looks better, but we'll see how it grows. Over here I have some squash. Now my squash and my zucchini and my cucumbers were a nightmare. I planted in spring, and we have squash borers. Horrible. Like, I probably killed 500 of them. I don't know, I would just go through the vine and pick them out, and we'll do a whole video about squash borers because I think I'm the expert on them now. Not that I know what to do still, but I think I know every problem and every solution anyone's ever tried, and I know none of them work. The only thing that I have found that works so far is to just try to kill as many as you can, hope some of your vines grow, and then once those borers, you know, the weather gets cooler, it's cooler now, now my stuff is growing. So I have a lot of dead, but I have some growing now, and it's actually producing new flowers. So we'll see before it freezes if I get any squash and cucumbers. So this is Kabocha Winter. I think I'm saying that right. It's looking good. I think I have 3. 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 of those, which is a miracle. I'm telling you, I can't even believe any of this lived through all those squash borers. And then I have what do I have? Oh, I have a butternut squash that the vine is looking good, the plant's looking good. We'll see if it produces anything. I'm not really sure. So just right next to this bed over here on the other side of this trellis, I have the Mybar spinach growing right here, which is the coolest looking. I think it's the most beautiful edible plant I've ever seen. I'm probably gonna say that a lot because I just think plants are beautiful. But I don't know if you can see these beautiful little blossoms. Look how cute those are. These are all over. So all over this spinach right here. And there's more of it down at the end, a lot more. But I also have some of this squash growing up through it. So hopefully, I'm gonna pin this up. Just keeps going and gets me some more squash for Thanksgiving. Wouldn't that be awesome? And right here I have some amaranth, which is looking so awesome. And I'm loving, it looked a lot better a few months ago. Actually, it looked a lot better about a month ago, but it is gorgeous. And I really didn't mean for it to grow through here, but it's just been kind of really pretty growing up through here, especially when some of my squash was looking scary. At least this was still pretty. I also have this awesome Gomphrena fireworks. Isn't that so pretty? Look at this. And this combined with the amaranth has just been one of the beautiful things in my garden this year. One of the things when I walk out here just makes me happy. So pretty to have flowers and color, even in your edible garden. So this summer, this has just been a winner and a performer and just amazing. And then also the amaranth, and it's going down, I think, but it has reseeded itself profusely. So I have baby amaranths all over here. I'm gonna see what happens. I'm just gonna let them grow. Maybe they'll come up in the spring. I'll pull some out to make room for my lettuce this winter, but I'm gonna leave some of them in and see what it goes. That's what it's all about for me right now, is experimenting. Every single thing in my garden is an experiment, because this is, again, only my 2nd season here. So the whole point of the mesh, like I talked about, is to keep those little white butterflies off of everything. And it has worked wonders. Okay, so over here, I have arugula growing right here. I have chard growing. I have 4 plants of chard. I have, this is collards, 3 plants of collards. And then over here I have mustard greens. Is that all mustard greens? Yeah, different varieties, but mustard greens. And so mustard greens are new to me. Never grew that in Arizona. Grew some of these last year, but again, they got devoured. So I'm excited and they're looking great. So I planted all of these as plugs. They were already growing just about, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches. They were tiny, and they've been in the ground now for, I would say, 2 weeks. There is something eating this right here, as you can see, but really that's nothing. Like, that is nothing. I'm not worried about that at all. I will probably spray. The one thing I will spray with is BT, and that will get rid of any caterpillars that happen to get under there. But so far, I'm so happy. Yeah, so it's looking good. Looking good. The arugula looks awesome. In fact, that is so ready to eat. Okay, can you see how long these are? This isn't even a long one. They even get longer than this. Let's see if I have one over here that's really long. Yeah. Wow, look at these. Two of my faces, maybe more. So these are called Orient Wonder, and they are so delicious. My kids, when I make these, I can't make enough, ever. I think I've picked like a huge bowl of them, and I cook them with almonds and balsamic vinegar, reduced, and garlic, and every single time, everyone's fighting over the last few in the bowl. So this has been my best performer, my yummiest green beans. That's probably the biggest you want to get them. Still really good though. You want to get them while they're pretty young. Before they start forming beans. It's so good. When I'm out here, I eat these the whole time while I'm out here working in the garden. I love that. That's one of my favorite things, is to just eat things out of the garden. I mean, there's strawberries, peas are so good out of the garden. What else? I mean, anything that's growing, it's always so good. A tomato right out of the garden. Anyways, these are awesome. I'm gonna save these for later, and I do need to harvest these beans because they are all ready. But look how good they look. They're all growing on here, and on the other side there's even more. Look how big these beans are. Look how long they are. Orient Wonder. They've been my best performers so far. Now, some of my other beans are really good too. These actually taste really good. S-E-Y-C-H-E-L-E-S. Seychelles? I don't know. Beans. Never grown them, but they taste really good. They just weren't quite as much of a performer. They're just now coming out, and maybe they just weren't ready yet. But they're really good. These taste really good. They're crunchier. These are maybe, no, they're both equally good. Really good. Yeah. This is, I think this is the Thai basil. Let's see. There's probably bees all over this. Actually, this may be Plumosa tall. I have 2 celosia tags, and I don't know which one this is. I pulled one out. Anyways, I'll find that out. And the basil has also been a huge performer in my garden this year. I'll take you around and show you all the basil, but that's one that was just a start that just, it seeded itself and it grew, and I let it grow because my huge basil plant, which had bees all over it, I knew wouldn't last forever. And I thought, well, by the time that one goes down, I'll have a new basil plant for all the bees and pollinators. And the basil, with when it blooms, is covered in bees. If you're scared of bees, I guess don't do that. I used to be scared of bees until I learned how valuable they are and how important it is that we take care of our bees and our pollinators, and how important it is in your garden to get fruit so that it'll pollinate them. So I have flowers in my garden to make sure that I have bees and butterflies and such. But the basil by far is the best pollinator. I also have some sunflowers that they also really loved. So that's why this is here. And then, yeah, this dianthus was amazing. Let me show you closer. I have a little more basil growing right here. And then here, I don't know if you can see, but here I have all the little baby celosias coming up. So I'm gonna thin those out. Oh, here's another one right here. So right here, this little celosia growing by itself. It just seeds from the celosia fall right here. Seeds from the celosia fall, and this little plant formed. So I have a few of those around, so I may transplant those into a better location or just leave them. I have a ton of babies growing right here, so that's awesome. So right here in this bed, this is the basil that I'm talking about. I have taken probably 75% of this basil out. This is one plant. This is actually cinnamon basil. And it wouldn't taste very good anymore. Once your basil starts to flower, it doesn't taste good, it's real bitter. But before that, this was delicious. But I let this go, and you can keep it going if you just pick off the blossoms. You can let your basil go and go and go and keep producing yummy leaves. Look how huge it is, and I've probably taken 75% off of it. So I let this go, but I did need to put in my winter crops. So I just kind of like cut off this half of it so that it could kind of grow out from underneath this mesh. And then all my winter vegetables that I needed to have some mesh over so they don't get eaten, I was able to kind of just go around it and with some rocks hold that down. So let me show you what I have growing under here. So right here I have Bright Light Swiss Chard. I have 3 of those plants. They're looking beautiful. Then I have a Mybar spinach. This is just the green variety. And it was shaded a lot by a lot of basil right here, so I think that's why it's not quite as big of a bloomer as that one. I think that one was called Purple that I showed you before with the cute little flowers on it. This is green and it is delicious. It's a little, if you've never had my bar spinach, what's so great about it? Oh, so good. What's so great about it is it grows in the summer. Not summer, but here in Texas, like early September, start growing it. It's still warm. No other spinach would handle that. So when you don't have any greens because it's too warm, plant my bar spinach. It's a little, okay, I'm gonna say slimy, but don't gross out because it's really good. And really good like sauteed with garlic and all of that because you don't taste that slimy. In a salad, it's a little slimy if that's gross to you. And when I say slimy, it's not slimy, it just has that little squishy. Does that make sense? It's crunchy but squishy. It's really hard to explain unless you've eaten it. But I think it's delicious because I also know how good that is for you. When you have a vegetable that has that consistency, it's so good for your digestive tract. So I will eat this whenever I'm out here, especially the little leaves are so yummy. The bigger leaves I would saute. Anyways, that's doing great. And then I also have right here some cabbage, that's Chinese cabbage over there. And then cauliflower, the rest of it. I do have another basil plant here and here. A few little things that just spontaneously started to grow. I'm gonna let that go until they're overcrowding my winter stuff. And then I have a few beans at the end that aren't really doing very good. I planted those beans in the spring and they kind of made it through the summer. I just kind of wanted to see what they would do and not that great. So there is the Swiss chard. It's called Bright Lights. There's the green my bar spinach. There is the Chinese cabbage. They're doing great. And there is the cauliflower. I think there's 9 varieties here because, like I said, this is a big old experiment. I'm just trying to see which varieties I like and ruling out other ones. Now I have a little something eating that, as you can see. So I probably need to spray these with some BT, but as a whole, you guys, this is a miracle. Last year, these would have never been here. Look, I have a little bit of something eating on that Chinese cabbage, but as a whole, they look really good. So I think covering them is the answer. So let me get those covered really quick before something lays an egg on there. Okay, my tomato story real quick. I'll probably make a video in depth on my tomatoes, but this is what happened. Planted these tomatoes in probably March. I think it was in March. And they weren't seeds or anything. I bought plants at the nursery. Put these in. I have 8 different varieties. Did horrible, like horrible. Didn't grow, were so diseased. They were either dying or they were overwatered or they had spots all over them, and tomatoes would start to form and then look horrible. I mean, like horrible. I am blaming my soil a lot on this one, but I also am gonna say I have a friend who's a good gardener here, and I asked her and she said my tomatoes were horrible this year. So I'm hoping it's just that it was just a funky season this year in Texas for tomatoes. Sorry about the noise, my neighbor is weeding, I think. So, but they did horrible. However, I thought, okay, well, this is a great learning experience, right? So I left them. I trimmed them up. I took the dead stuff off the most I could. And I also had to put this netting around it because my dogs love tomatoes. It's not completely keeping them out. I gotta find a better way, but it's doing better. So I let them go and they actually are coming back. I wanted to see if it would be best in Texas to plant tomatoes, even if they don't do, they'll die through the summer. They can't get above 90 degrees and produce fruit. And in the summer here, it gets to 100. Rarely, but it does. But it's always in the 90s, so they're not happy, but they live. And so I thought, I'm just gonna let them live through the summer, even though they're struggling, and see if they come back in the fall. And they have. So far, they've produced a lot of green fruit, but I haven't got any ripe fruit yet, so we'll see on that. And then over here, on these tomatoes, I planted these in, I would say, September, maybe early September, and they look way better. I would say, if I had to go judge off this year's tomatoes, plant in the fall. Fall tomatoes are way better. They've produced a lot. I've already eaten a lot off of them. Right now I just have green ones on there, but they're looking good. My dog got a hold of my last couple ripe ones, but they're looking very good, and I'll do a video more in depth on that. But so that's what I have growing here are my tomatoes. Okay, and then in between my tomatoes, which these are horribly staked, I realize that, but I didn't have any more cages because I was growing so many. But in between I have all of my Brussels sprouts, and they're covered with mesh right now, and I'm not gonna take it off because it's such a pain to get in there with the netting, but they're doing great underneath the mesh, and I do probably need to get something to hold that mesh up now that they're getting bigger, but with the little plants, it's okay. They're fine with the mesh laying on them. So that's growing there, and that will start as soon as my tomatoes are done. I'll take those out, and then my Brussels sprouts will start to come up. And over here in these tomatoes, these were my these were my spring tomatoes that I planted. I have kale in between all of the tomato plants. So again, there's another kale. When the tomato plants are done and I can take those out, I will have kale here, and it will start getting big when it gets a little more sun right there and there. But I think they've appreciated the shade when it's still a little warm here in Texas. It's October and we've had a warm fall. So I think that these kale really appreciated some shade from the tomatoes, so that worked out perfectly. But look at how these are coming back. I mean, these look much healthier than they did in the spring, these tomatoes here. Look at this. I've got I don't know, 2 or 3 right there growing tomatoes, and a ton of blossoms over there on these tomatoes. So we'll see. Oh, yep, I'm seeing blossoms everywhere. This tomato is super sad, not happy, but we'll just let him go and see how he does. Also have a big basil plant right here. This was the Genovese basil, which is delicious, but I have let it go to seed, to flower, and letting the pollinators get on those. And what's cool about this is I couldn't figure out how to net all my tomatoes, but also leave the basil out, but it's just growing right through it, and the bees just go right through it and get the flowers, which is something I was curious about. But they find it. They're happy with that. Okay, so in this bed right here, I have my dahlias, and I had dahlias in 2 beds. I took the ones out over here because I needed room for my tomatoes. But these grew, I don't know if you can see right here, the dahlias. I'll bring you in closer, but here, over here, beautiful. They are my favorite, no, my second favorite flower, but they just, everyone told me they wouldn't grow here. So I was like, you know what? I love dahlias. I've lived in the desert my whole life. I'm gonna try, and they grow. They just need really good soil. They did really great in the spring for like 3 weeks. So you could enjoy them for 3 weeks, and then they hated the heat. So that didn't work. And so I pulled a lot of them out, but then I thought, you know what? I'm gonna cut them down and see if they'll come back in the fall. And they are. They're coming back awesome, which I think next year I would just, I don't know how, I guess I would just save my tubers in the fridge and then pull them out in like September and plant them. I don't know, that would be a good experiment too, but or just plant them in the spring, enjoy them for a couple weeks, cut them down, and let them come back in the fall. So those are all coming back now, looking beautiful. I do think I overwatered them in the spring though. I don't think, I need to look that up, but I don't think dahlias like to be really wet. I really don't. So then I have a few tomatoes here that I actually took cuttings off of my spring tomatoes to see if that would work, and just stuck them in the ground. I have Sun Gold, little small tomatoes that are the best tasting tomato in the garden right here, and they look great. And there's none to eat right now because I always eat them all before I can bring them in the house. Then I have lavender right here. I have a couple types of lavender to see which one grows best in Texas. So far this is the winner, and my tag is way under there and there's bees all over this, so I'm not gonna look right now, but we'll do a video on lavender. And then so more dahlia, and this is a tuberose. It's growing. I have 2 of them, never grown that. I saw it as a tuber in the nursery, and I thought, I'm gonna give that a try, and look at how big it is. I don't know if it's gonna give me any flowers, and I've never actually smelled a real live tuberose. I know I don't love the smell in fragrance and perfume, but I'm sure it smells very different in person, like a rose in person. I don't know, I have found one perfume that I like that smells like rose. It's real close, but normally it's hard to mimic that. So anyways, this is tuberose. It'll be fun to smell that if it'll ever bloom. And then right here on the other side of the dahlias and the tuberose and the tomatoes, I have, this is broccoli. Is this broccoli? Oh no, cabbage. Yep, I have all my cabbage right under here under this net. I'm not gonna take it off, but I have about 10 cabbages, and they're all doing great. There is nothing eating these cabbages, so super happy about that. Nobody got underneath this netting, so those are gonna be great this winter. Okay, and then the last bed I have right here is all under a net, and let me show you what I have. I'll take this netting off. So this was a total experiment right here. So right here, I have carrots. Now, don't ask me. I don't really understand carrots here. I knew how to grow them in Arizona. It was winter. Bottom line, it was winter. I planted these as seeds in probably February, and they grew in the spring, but slow. I thought I'd have spring carrots. Didn't have greens. It didn't have spring carrots, but they kept growing and they were good, but they weren't very big. And I just thought, well, it's summertime now. It's gonna be too hot for carrots. I should take these out. But then I thought, why? It's an experiment. I'm gonna leave them in and see what happens. So these have been growing a really long time. I haven't pulled one out in a while. Let me pull one out. Oh boy. Okay, so they look good. I don't know, it's really muddy. It's pretty wet, it rained. Oh, I got two here. So they look pretty good. A little split. It's a little split, but it doesn't have anything eating it or anything. It probably tastes really good now that it's getting cooler. Carrots taste a lot better in the winter. That's why I didn't really pull them out in the summer. I tasted a couple in the summer and they didn't taste very good. So I haven't tasted these yet. I'm gonna have to see how they taste now that the weather's cooler. But I thought, well, it's not very much real estate here in my garden bed. I'm just gonna let them grow and see what happens. So kind of weird shape, but yum. All right. So those look good, fun. Anyways, carrots here. Over here I have peppers. Both hot peppers, Havasu and jalapeno. And I think that's another Havasu and jalapeno, both. So I have two of each, but they're good. These are really good performers. I actually need to come and stake these up. These have never been staked up and it's time. They're getting heavy. Peppers like it cooler. So they made it through the summer. I planted those in the spring also. They did pretty good right at first, and then they just kind of barely made it through the summer. They didn't produce anything. They stayed a nice plant, but didn't produce anything through the summer. They don't like the real heat. You would think a hot pepper would like it hot. It doesn't like it hot. In fact, they appreciated a little shade here in Texas. And so now they're just happy. They are dancing, they are singing, like they are blooming like crazy and producing a ton of peppers, which is super fun. So then over on the other side is where my broccoli is. Right here is all my broccoli. It looks like I have 16 broccolis and every single one of them looks great. Oh, a couple cabbages right here. They all look great. And then over here, in between my peppers and my carrots, I have some more cabbage. So you just kind of tuck things in where you can. The one thing I'm not sure about is I have this mesh over this whole thing, and I really hope it's okay to keep pollinators off the peppers. So that'll be interesting to see if it keeps producing fruit. I think they're self-pollinating. I need to look that up, but everything else I've got to keep them covered for at least another couple weeks. And then I can take them off and these will be happy as can be through the whole winter. They can even handle some freezing weather. It'll be great. Okay, so the last thing I'll show you right here is my peppers, and I have one Brussels sprout right here because I thought it'd be a fun experiment to see if I just leave it uncovered, if it will get devoured, like if those, because I didn't grow Brussels sprouts last year, so I'm not really sure if caterpillars eat that, so that will be an interesting experiment right there. And okra, which is phenomenal plant here. I haven't figured out how to cook it yet. I eat it straight raw out of the garden. I don't love it, but I know it's so good for you, so I'll just eat one every day. It did amazing here. Okay, if you've never seen, I don't have any flowers right now, but if you've never seen okra flowers, I think they're the prettiest flower there is. They're so pretty, but look at, that's the okra. And this is getting a little long. I need to get those in the house and we need to eat them. So I'm going to try stir frying them. This is my first time growing them, but look at that trunk. I mean, they're like trees. So they did awesome. This little guy is short for some reason. But look at those trunks. So those look really good. They're kind of growing up through some sunflowers that I had that are all dead. Need to pull those out. And then over here, I have the Brussels sprout right there. It's doing good. I have peppers, all kinds of bell peppers. I think I even have, no, I think these are all those, some chili peppers. And the bell peppers are doing great. Finally, looking good. Finally, got through the heat. Looking really good. Look at these purple bells. So good. Delicious. I can't get those in the house because the kids eat them right from the garden. And some jalapenos. Oh, these might be chili peppers. I can't remember. Those are chili peppers. Yeah. And then more bell. And then more bell here. And then I have jalapeno that are growing through my Bermuda grass, which is taken over. And I kind of just haven't been out here to take that out, but I need to work on that. Yeah. So that's my last little spot. This was like a last minute, throw some dirt in the ground and see what grows. So these aren't in boxes, but we'll see how it does. Oh, one more thing I forgot to show you is I have leeks right here. These have been seeds from the spring, have grown all summer, and they are finally really thickening up. And you can see those trunks, those little bases right there, but they are looking really good and they taste delicious. And some garlic chives right here. Oh, I also have a purple basil right here that I chopped like more than in half, which is a little too much, but it was really shading my tomato here. So chop that off, and it's looking horrible, but it was beautiful, but it's finally coming back. And purple basil is by far the tastiest, in my opinion, in like a Capri salad. So a few more tomatoes over there. And again, this is back to the arbor. So that's a little walk through my garden in October, what I've got growing, what's working, what's not working, and so I'll keep you updated on how it goes. I have many more things to talk to you about and to ask you about, like for instance, how did you deal with cabbage borers? Teach me about tomatoes in Austin. I grew them awesome in Arizona, not sure what I'm doing, but did okay this year. Oh, I forgot to even show you, I have a strawberry patch right here, and we'll show you that later, but strawberries, they're doing great. Any advice you have on strawberries would also be awesome. Thanks for watching. We'll see you. Have a good day. Bye.